everybody, welcome to Learn with Steph. This is one of the videos as part of our Lessons in Law series. The focus is on OCR A Level Law, but it will be useful to anybody studying law. If you like the videos, please do subscribe and press the like button at the bottom. Hello, so this is the first video for criminal law, and today we're going to look at just an introduction to Actus Reus, and this comes under, in the OCR specification, the general elements of criminal liability. So for the Actus Reus, you need to know conduct and consequence crimes, voluntary acts and omissions, the idea of involuntariness, and causation. So first of all, what does Actus Reus mean? Well, Actus Reus means literally guilty act. In other words, in a crime, it's what the defendant does. So the physical element of a crime. So for instance, hitting somebody or destroying somebody's property. And it can be a voluntary act, a voluntary omission, or a rather strange phrase, a state of affairs, which covers this idea of involuntariness. Looking at the difference between conduct and consequence crimes. So a conduct crime is when you do something that's prohibited. So in other words, something you do leads to liability. So this might be lying under oath or drink driving. Consequence crimes, on the other hand, sometimes known as result crimes, means that the conduct, doing something, must result in a consequence. Okay, or if you like, must cause a consequence. So for instance, for fatal offences, the consequence or the result will be death. Looking at voluntary acts, and this meaning of voluntary. So voluntary means free-willed. In other words, it's when you're in control of your actions. It's when you're in control of what you do. And there's a leading case here called Hill v. Baxter. And Hill v. Baxter involved a car accident. And during the ruling, the judge made a hypothetical statement and basically said that, if you'd have crashed because a swarm of bees flew into your car, if a swarm of bees flew into your car and you were driving, then you might crash because you might have had a reflex reaction. And he said that it's reflex reactions, if you like, that are free will, that are involuntary acts. It might also, of course, be acts done whilst unconscious, or even when you're sleepwalking. And when you look at the defences and you go on to automatism, we'll cover a little bit more about this. Just an aside here, Hill v. Baxter is a great case to know because it is also a good case for persuasive precedent. So if you remember in paper 2, section A, and you did judicial precedent, we looked at different types of persuasive precedent. And one type were hypothetical situations that a judge gives. They might become persuasive in later cases. So this is a good example of that. So as well as voluntary acts, we also have voluntary omissions. So an omission is a failure to do something. Notice it's one M and two S's, by the way. So a failure to act. In other words, when the defendant does not do something that in law he should do. And again, just a little bit of extra information here. The UK usually does not impose what's called a Good Samaritan law, unlike countries like France. So in other words, quite often the UK does not expect in law you to help somebody. So if you see somebody mugged, it might be immoral to ignore that and just walk past. Or if you see somebody injured in the street, you might think it's immoral to just walk past and leave them in the street. But in law, it's not illegal. There is no Good Samaritan law. There's only liability to act in the UK when there is a statutory or a common law duty to act. So just have a think about those two words again. Statutory and common law. Do you know what they mean? Statutory. What's a statutory law and what's a common law? Okay, you must make sure you know that. So of course, statutory law means it's laid down in a statute. It's laid down in an Act of Parliament. So an Act of Parliament will say you have to do something in these situations. Just give you some examples here. So the Road Traffic Act lays down you must wear a seatbelt, so you have to put a seatbelt on. The Education Act lays down you must attend school if you're under the age of 17. And the Children and Young Persons Act lays down that you must feed and clothe and give medical aid to children if you're a parent or a carer. So these are all statutory duties to act. There's a whole list of common law duties to act. So common law, in other words, laid down in a case. I've just got the key ones here that you need to know. And you will need to know these particularly when you look at gross negligence manslaughter. So R.V. Pitwood was a guard in charge of a railway crossing, and he failed to put the railway crossing down. And it was decided that he omitted to do his duty arising out of contract. So in other words, there is a common law duty to act when it's in your contract. R.V. Dyphon. Now he was a police officer and he didn't help somebody who was in a fight, so he ignored it. And again, it was held that he omitted to do something and that amounted to a crime here, okay? And he had a duty to act arising out of his official position as a police officer. So in other words, you have to act when there is a duty arising from your official position. R.V. Miller. This was a tramp who fell asleep while smoking, and he set light to his mattress. And he woke up in the night, saw the fire, and all he did was move into another room. So he didn't summon help, and he didn't try to put the fire out or anything like that. And again, it was held that he had a criminal duty to act because he'd created a dangerous situation. So if you create a dangerous chain of events, then you have a duty to act. And then finally, you've got Stone and Dobinson. And this was quite a nasty case, actually, where two people agreed to look after the sister who was anorexic, and basically she wasn't cared for properly. So they agreed to look after her. So they voluntarily undertook her care, but she died. And so again, it was held that there was a common law duty to act if you voluntarily undertake responsibility for somebody. And then the other type of actus reus is involuntariness. So we're looking here at state of affairs offences, and these are offences where the defendant is found in a set of illegal circumstances, such as being found in possession. And a really good case that I like is R.V. Larsener here. And this is where a woman was basically deported back to Ireland, but Ireland didn't want her either. So they shipped her back to the UK, and when she arrived in the UK, she was arrested for being an alien. She didn't want to be in the UK. She was brought back against her will, if you like. So she was here involuntarily, but she was in the UK and she wasn't allowed to be in the UK. Hence, it was a state of affairs offence. So on this lesson, we've covered conduct and consequence crimes. We've covered voluntary acts and omissions and involuntariness, i.e. state of affairs offences. Next lesson, we're going to tune into that one. If you like the lesson, then please press like. Feel free to leave a comment and I'll try and get back to you. And subscribe to my channel so that you get notification for more lessons. Thank you for listening. That brings us to the end of this lesson in law. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like it and subscribe to find more videos. Bye.